talk us through this latest story and what you guys found about Facebook and how it made these kind of editorial decisions.
So my colleagues at the Times, they spent weeks and months looking through a trove of documents that really revealed how Facebook manages all these issues with the fake news and the harmful content, bad actors. It's really, really crazy because so much of it is based on these sort of PowerPoint presentations, these sort of if-then type of situation statements, and it's sort of like customer service from hell a little bit, right? In terms of if this happens, this is what we say, this is what we do. And it's certainly imperfect, but it also really shows the breadth of the issues, right? The breadth of the problems that Facebook has been dealing with for the past few years, at least, if not longer. And that there really is no good solution. There's no algorithm. There's no software that really fixes it. So they acknowledge that, certainly, and that's a good sign. But the issues are so broad that you kind of wonder if Facebook really requires fundamental changes that go beyond just sort of constantly tweaking how they answer these issues. And because the risk is going to be that people leave the service if they don't feel comfortable on it.
Ed, we always debate whether or not they're going to face a load more regulation. That debate tends to focus on the data privacy side of things. But I guess this story and this discussion point raises the other one, which we haven't talked enough about perhaps, but whether they should be classified as a publisher of content in the same way that a newspaper or a TV broadcast news company is.
Right, and so that there's going to be beyond, as you pointed out, beyond just the data privacy, it's, what are they, right? Are they liable for the content that's published on the site? They have an exception, they have a carve out in the Telecommunications Act that allows them, as long as we're notified, as long as we make an attempt to pull these things down, we're not responsible prior to them going up. That might change. That might be a factor in terms of how Congress, for all the issues that it's going to have, that might be one of the few areas of bipartisan support, but just not within the U.S., but around the world. The EU has already taken a pretty tough stance on the data side of it. They could take an equally tough stance or even a tougher stance in terms of their liability in terms of the content that's published. And the third leg of this, frankly, in terms of regulation is, are they a monopoly? And what I mean by that is there an alternative Facebook, that would allow Facebook, that would sort of spur Facebook to act better, and they keep saying that they are and that they will, but there's no better sort of prompt than competition. And right now, you could be argued that there is no real competition at Facebook. So if it's seen as a monopoly, that's another way that Congress or other governments could look into it and say, you know what, we need to either break you up or break you down or take some kind of action against you. So a lot of risk factors for Facebook going into 2019.
Ed, when you say that this is a task that just has no obvious solution in terms of keeping on top of all this, whatever it's fraud or it's hate speech, and it might require fundamental change, more fundamental change in the service, what might that even mean?
So I think the easiest solution is going to be, hey, look, you can't post stuff to Facebook unless you're an approved publisher. Much the way that the publishing world works today. I don't think they're going to do that. That would, however, be an example of a fundamental change that would solve a lot of the problems right away. Of course, activity and engagement, ultimately page views, eyeballs would drastically drop if they did that. There's got to be some in-between solution. I think they're looking for that, whether it's some combination of AI and human intervention. But again, as you can see, just there's so much activity, there's so much stuff being posted on the service that there's no way to really catch it all, and they acknowledge that. But even 99%, that's a figure they come up with, that they're most of it's clean and free and good. I don't know that they're going to be able to maintain that, even if that's true today. So, I think there are a lot of hard fundamental questions, existential questions that Facebook has to deal with. I think Mark Zuckerberg is coming to terms with that, but again, I don't see any real solutions, even from his note today. They're acting like a world government. Even within his note, he was talking about we've come up with an appeals process. He's trying to replicate sort of a longstanding tradition of courts and case law and, legislation that the world abides by. It's just that Facebook is borderless. It's become this sort of supranational entity. And these are issues that no one's really faced before. So it's a huge, huge undertaking. Yes, it's not going to just take more than a year. It'll take multiple years.
Yeah, and I think what the Times piece illustrates is that the solutions they are coming up with are just not adequate at this point.